And we are live. Good evening.
Good evening.
Now, I have a confession up front that I was far too tired after a day of both work and study to cook any food, so I ordered actually from one of your former employers, and uh, it hasn't arrived on time. And so at some point, I'm going to have to. I've got a contingency plan for this, but I am going to have to eat live on stream.
That sounds fun.
Yeah,
That sounds like
it's fun for me.
that's this is valuable content.
Yeah, please like
Speaking
and
of valuable
subscribe.
content, what did you get the this thing that you linked me today? App kit for Mac OS 9.
Oh yeah, yeah. Let, let me do
I can
what.
paste the link into. Oh
Yeah.
no, I can't paste the link into chat because I'm not on chat.
Okay. Nice.
Oh wait, yes I can. I can do it through VNC. What the hell? Look at this.
Oh yeah.
Oh
No.
nope, it did
No.
not.
And
Nope, you get to do it.
yeah, but I don't have. You know what? I'm just going to go to the person's Twitter stream.
Oh, there
Um,
you go.
Once again, my API token for Mattermost has appeared on the stream, and I will have to rotate that token after we've finished.
Sorry.
We've each done it once now. So Uli Costera, I don't know what he's up to these days. I first met him when he was a programmer at Elgato, who do the the sort of ITV and all of the like TV capture stuff.
hmm
But what he has been doing is oh, there we go. The using Code Warrior, which has an Objective C compiler, uh, app kit for classic macOS. Um, so here it is in all of its glory. Uh, so it's got NS views and NS buttons and NS applications and NS run loops. And it's drawing HI toolbox controls, and it is a Code Warrior project using their Objective C. And the interesting thing about Code Warrior's Objective C support, which I think is a tool called Class Act, um, which was actually a also the name of a uh, object-oriented library on the Amiga. Um, but anyway, their MetroWorks Objective C support only includes a runtime library for 68,000. So this is running on Mac OS 9 on a Power PC, but it is having to translate the Objective C runtime code into 68,000 to send messages.
That's awesome.
Yeah, if I use the right keyboard here, then we can show this and put
Now,
this in the
is it an
chat.
app kit reimplementation or is it a
Yeah, yeah. So all you get with Code Warrior is uh, a, an object file. So he's had to sort of create NS object. GitHub can't cope with Mac line endings, so I've only got one line of code there. That's better because
there
Firefox
we go.
can cope with it. So yes, he's had to define NS object as a subclass of the MetroWorks object, and
hmm
then implement protocols which it doesn't have, implement NS string. Like it is basically a complete re-implementation from scratch.
That's amazing.
Hmm. So I
I
see
love seeing this kind of stuff.
Amiga Gamer 1200 is here. Good evening, and I apologise for I don't know whether Stephen can see this, but the quality of your videos, Stephen, is not very good at my end, and so we've just got a collection of big pixels where your face should be.
That's okay. I'm okay being big pixels. It's better than being small pixels.
And the audio is fine. So from that perspective, like we can still hear you, which is one of the main things from this thing. So that was my pre-show really. Like, I suppose the other thing to talk about is Philippe, who is the maintainer of SimpleAgenda, posted to the Discuss GNU Step mailing list that he hasn't had time to work on SimpleAgenda and is looking for a new maintainer. So we volunteered for that, as did other people, and what he wants is people to go through the bug backlog on GitHub and fix them, before he hands over, find out who has the time and the capability to do it, which is entirely reasonable. So I imagine after we have done our current project, we'll take a look at the bug backlog on SimpleAgenda.
Yeah. Sounds like a good use of our time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's it's an important part of the thing that I like, certainly about GNU Step, which is this kind of collection of well integrated applications that all have, both a common set of interface standards, but also a common set of implementation standards, if you like. Because if I'm going to use free software, then I'm going to want to understand it, literally inside and out. And I'm not going to get to do that if 12% of the apps are written in Valor and 30% of the apps are written in JavaScript and 29% are written in Mono, and then whatever remaining percent is written in C. I like the fact that there's all objc and all Foundation AppKit behind the curtain, and all the next step or Cocoa controls in front of the curtain as well.
Yeah, I really like that about whenever I go on one of my pilgrimages to Free Software Land again, I always wind up on first of all, I go all in on KDE.
Yeah.
Which is nice because everything is written in using Qt. Some of the things are in Python, some of the things are in C++, but it's reasonable. The documentation is really good. I think that the KDE apps tend to be really, really, really good. They tend to have a lot more configuration bits that I really want, but they tend to be sort of kitchen sinky. But I don't mind that so much. And but when I go to GNOME Land, the documentation's out of date. There's some stuff with I'm just throwing a treat to the dog because she knows it's stream time, so she wants a treat. When I go to GNOME Land, the documentation is basically read the source code to the app that is most like the one that you want to write. And half of the apps are in JavaScript, which I'm not willing to touch because I've come this far. And it's not as nice a development experience. With the GNU Step development experience, even if the documentation is out of date or whatever, there are many places where I can go and find sort of reasonable facsimiles of documentation for it. I can use Apple's documentation, I can use Next's documentation, and I have a suite of applications that I can use and things like that that I can look at the source code of. So so those are really nice. That's one of the nice things that I like about GNU Step. And also because of the dynamic nature of Objective-C and the Cocoa libraries, we've even found in our work on anti-RSI, we can just add the features that are missing if we need them until they're merged upstream. So that's really nice as well.
Yeah. I think. This is something else that came up recently. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to find a link for this. Let me see if I can. The product manager from, or product marketing manager from OpenDoc, published a blog post saying,
Oh, right.
actually, the blog post is really old. It's from 2006. I don't know why I found it lately. Someone shared it recently. Anyway, they what we're doing? Yeah, that one. I'll just pop this in the chat. So they I put that directly in Twitch chat, which means it didn't show up in Mattermost. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually log into Mattermost and do it there. So they said that one of the things that Apple were not very good at the time was that they wouldn't do anything where they were competing with their developers, because they wanted a thriving developer ecosystem, and so they didn't want to do like a good text editor or a good like word processor, because then that would crowd out developers from doing text editors or word processors on their platform. And that is not a good position to be in when you're a platform vendor. We as like app vendors get frustrated when we get Sherlocked, when Apple re-implement our ideas. But the thing that makes the platform compelling to end users, to consumers, is it being useful. And so to some extent, the vendor has to do some level of like worthwhile software, either as Apple do by bundling themselves, or as like Commodore used to do by building a third-party bundle of software and putting it in their in the pack with the computer. That they have to provide something of value. So they have to actually, to some extent, compete with their own developer platform. So from that perspective, like GNU-Step has to, or rather, to get adoption as an app development framework, GNU-Step has to have its suite of compelling apps. And so things like GNU Mail and SimpleAgenda, and even like Bean, the word processor, seem like fairly trivial apps, but it's important that they exist and that they are good quality, so that people will like install the GNU-Step desktop to the extent that that is a thing that exists, and then go, oh yes, this is worth developing apps for because I can make things that are like this.
Yeah, that's been a common sort of complaint or misunderstanding about GNU-Step. And they say on the website, this is not a desktop environment. And a few attempts have been made to sort of package and ship a desktop environment that has GNU-Step underneath. But what we find is that people are looking for, I want to install this one thing and then see how it changes my life.
Yeah. And that's important, because like they won't go, oh, this has everything I need except an Islamic calendar. Therefore, I will contribute an Islamic calendar, unless it has everything else that they need. Or this has everything I need except a GTD app.
Right.
It needs to have the everything I need except. And the closer it is to that, the more people will get involved.
Yeah, and that's literally, I'm sure you did this on purpose, that is literally where I am with Nextcloud. Nextcloud has everything I need except for a GTD app. And they have tasks, which is really good. Away. Okay. So with Nextcloud has tasks, which is really good. But it's backed by, I found out the hard way, it's backed by task support in IMAP, or in Calendar. And so I ended up accidentally going through tasks and then wanting to reset my task setup, and I deleted the top level, and I realized that I had just deleted all of my calendar, which was not good, and I filed a bug. But there are when you have something that has everything but, then you're encouraged to contribute the but. Amiga Gamer 1200 in chat says there is or was a GNU Stop desktop. There have been several. There was Etoile, which sort of became, which attempted to be like GNU Step plus a whole bunch of other stuff with sort of a modern Mac-like look and feel. And there was Backbone sounds familiar. There was Midnight BSD, I think it was called. There was something called Next BSD at one point, which was FreeBSD with everything installed. I think there's a lot of value in providing a desktop like this, but GNU Step explicitly does not provide the whole desktop. Although it does provide all of the bits, so people are welcome, and I would encourage you to go ahead and provide the bits for us, and put those bits together to provide the desktop. But that requires integration work and so on.
Yeah.
So
go
ahead.
A, I'm back. B, I'm going to be eating for the foreseeable future. So I have replaced the video of me with a picture of me.
All right.
But yeah,
I've actually turned off my video stream to save your bandwidth because it's just got
my bandwidth or Firefox.
It might be a Jitsi thing or something. Who knows?
Anyway,
yeah.
No, you are right, but I think that the lack of that and the lack of official version of that is is actually a sort of barrier to adoption, or even a barrier to trial. And there's a common discussion that I see sort of Greg getting involved with, on and off over the history of the project, where GNU Step basically needs a default theme that is not the next theme. Because those of us who are for want of a better word, greybeards, are perfectly happy to use a next step looking UI.
I think grey pubes is the gender
neutral form. Okay, yeah. Yep. Nice. So not everybody is happy to look at opening a drinks can, open a computing environment and see a UI that was designed in the 1980s and with these weird vertical menus that aren't familiar from any other environment at all. And again, it's almost a trivial thing, but it's just a barrier to adoption. And I think that GNU Step has an incredibly important role in the future of computing because it is basically the replacement for Apple's right to repair. Apple don't believe in right to repair, and so we'll just take all of our software and move it onto something that we are allowed to work with. GNU Step enables that, and it can only enable that if people want to use it.
Yeah, I've started describing Apple's response to right to repair with responsibility to replace. And I think back on the Mac OS 9 stuff where they didn't want to compete with app vendors, I think that's an incredibly moral stance to take. That I sort of agree with, even though I think the article describes that it was kind of a failure. But when I remember being a Mac user in the 90s, you had to go to Mac user groups and things like that to find out what is the text editor that people are using.
Yeah.
What's the text editor? Okay, well, you should install BBEdit, and that was a life changer. Install BBEdit on your Mac, and that's a life changer. And install this thing, and it's a life changer, and install that thing, and it's a life changer. But none of that shit came from Apple. And so you just sort of had to know the secret handshake of which things I should buy. To complete my Macintosh experience. And I mean, there was a lot of value, and I miss a lot of the community aspects around that, where people got together and traded software and stuff like that. It was a similar thing with with the Amiga. I don't think they had a necessarily moral stance against competing with developers. But when you got an Amiga, you got an Amiga, and then you look at Workbench and you say, okay, what do I do now? Well, now you go to the store and buy some software, and it's a very different time now. Now we have software stores and things like that are installed on the computer, and they use the internet to download things, and that's a little bit better in some ways. But I think that you definitely need like when you install a Mac or a Windows PC for that matter, you get sort of what they call batteries included. You get a mail client, you get a web browser, and they may not be your preferred mail client and web browser, but you get those things, and you get a text editor that's very capable. I install Notepad++ on a Windows machine, but I also can use I think it's called WordPad on Windows. I might be dating myself as a Windows user at this point, but Windows comes with a basic word processor, and I think that that's an important thing. And we have all of these applications in GNU Step land, but it's really hard to say, give me a GNU Step desktop. And it's a shame because GNU Step is really powerful. If you don't like the next look and feel, you can compile Rick theme, and then all of your applications suddenly look like the Rick theme.
Yeah.
And that works really, really, really well. But you sort of have to you still have to hand roll all of this stuff. So I think there's definitely some work. Maybe it's a bit of work that we do on stream at some point in the distant future. I think there's important work to be done to say, okay, here's how you get your batteries included GNU Step desktop, because we have all the bits to give you a word processor, and there's a spreadsheet called StepCalc, I think. I'm sure there are more multiple spreadsheet programs. NeoOffice is free software. It's basically a Mac port of LibreOffice.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that could be modified to work with GNU Step really well. And so the bits are all there, but we definitely need someone to undertake the immense work of putting all the bits together.
Yeah,
and it's not a small project.
It is immense, and it is somewhat thankless as well. I can't remember the real name. Pro Bono PD, I think, his nickname is the guy who did Live Step, which was the FreeBSD 12 based live environment that we started this stream on, and who did put the effort into packaging up GNU Step and the compiler tools and the apps and the Rick theme and the top bar app, which gives you like the horizontal menu bar and all of those things, and basically sort of released it to a deafening silence from the community. So there's some sort of releasing this stuff and then also building the community momentum around it. But I think that is easier if you have those basic bits there. If you say, like, if you say you can use this computer for like writing Objective-C applications, but you need to have a second computer on hand so that you can check your email and push to GitHub, then like you're not going to go into space today. If you say like you can, the situation isn't really that bad because you can say you can use this computer to do like GNU Step, but everything that you use day in day out will not look like a GNU Step app, will be a bit frustrating. Like you have to press Command C to copy in GNU Step and then Control V to paste in Kmail. Like that's going to be frustrating and off-putting as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things like this that would be immensely useful that are thankless. I mean, distribution people got this for a long time, and that's why when you have like the Debian project has like 1,000 developers, and it's ridiculously it's ridiculously a lot of work, and it's very specific, very you have to have very specific knowledge about things. When I worked at Neo4j, I took up, because I was, well, the only person out of 100 that had deep knowledge of how to package Debian, Debian packages, RPMs, and the various systems that they run on. And so that became my job because I was the only person out of 100. And I don't think most 100-person organizations have, somebody who has this deep interest in sort of the operability surface of software, of package and distribution. And when you become effectively an operating system vendor, you're doing that thing 30,000 times, or in the case of GNU Step, you're probably doing it about 10,000 times. But that's still a massive, massive undertaking. So one of the things that I sort of have on my some weekend when I have time project in the middle of a dark, cold winter in Sweden is I was thinking about on FreeBSD, just make a meta port that installs all of GNU Step and sets up Window Maker or whatever, themes and stuff, and includes the software, because I think the FreeBSD and OpenBSD port systems are really, really good at this. And I think they're really good places for that kind of work to happen, but you have to have a deep interest in sort of packaging and distribution. I think the port system is a good place to start with that. Or even, if somebody made an Ubuntu PPA or a Debian package archive or something like that included configurations and so on, I think that would be immensely useful. But it is a lot of work, and it really is. You're right. It's thankless. You have to have out of the box working things. One of the things that's missing, for instance, on modern Linux distributions, you have like a wireless configuration to connect to wireless networks. That doesn't exist in GNU Step land. And so when you install Debian and GNU Step, suddenly you're using like Network Manager CLI to connect to a network and things like that. So one of the things that we need, and I think this should be a sooner rather than later project on stream, we need a network configuration application that supports Wi-Fi. And actually, if we did this on FreeBSD, which is our current host operating system, we would be the first that I'm aware of wireless GUI available on FreeBSD.
Right.
And I've already looked through the code for this. It's actually it's actually not that complicated. And all the APIs are available in C. It's just, a nice Objective-C wrapper around some of those things, and then a GUI on top of it. And we already have example code in the FreeBSD source code base that says, how do I list all of the wireless access points? How do I find out what their configurations are and things like that? That stuff already exists. So that could be a really good, relatively small, half a dozen streams project for us to take on.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I think, so taking on board Amiga Gamer 1200's message in chat, their biggest issue with new toolkits and desktop environments is the integration. They say, my system is packed full of background services and libraries because I run desktop A, but I need an app built for desktop B, which uses password management service from desktop C, and I still don't have a clue which is crashing Wayland. And
right,
you've got to take that inside-out approach, and just looking across. So obviously, the Window Maker desktop that we use for development is fairly minimalist, and I don't think we even open half of the apps that are in my dock during any one episode of the stream. But if I look across to my Mac, which is hosting OBS, like the collection of things that need to integrate in order, and we'll ignore OBS because that's a special tool that we're using for this one particular use case. So leaving that out of the picture, to get just the things that I have open when all I'm doing is streaming, apart from the streaming app, are a browser, which is a not insignificant amount of work, not only the first time, but from that day forevermore.
Yes.
there is the there is the like time and date in the top right corner, which is easy to do. There is a window maker applet, but that's not a GNU step app. There might be value in having a dock app for that. The preferences app would do it. There's then a bunch of built-in shit from macOS 10, but part of that is like a system-wide search function, and that's pretty useful and kind of table stakes for a desktop environment these days. Then there's the Wi-Fi menu. We talked about that. The Bluetooth menu, the audio input and output menu, and then there is the the desktop thing, which is basically G Workspace, which already exists, so we can claim that victory. And then, potentially there's the stuff on the Apple menu as well, like the universal location for sleeping or shutting the computer down, or quitting apps, or like finding other apps in the store. These are, as I say, table stakes for a desktop operating system, and there's quite a lot of them now.
Yeah, and also it also depends on your host operating system too. One of the things that was covered in I'm not sure if I shared it with you, but on Lobsters there was a guy who wrote basically a rant, and there were a lot of reasons to not agree with this person and some of their points. But basically posted a rant and said, look, FreeBSD has been ahead of the curve in so many ways for 20 years. And and his point was our lunch is getting eaten by the Linux people because what I took away from it is the FreeBSD's lunch is being eaten by the Linux people because FreeBSD doesn't go that last 20%. That's 80% of the effort. FreeBSD had jails 20 plus years ago, and jails are, in my opinion, in every way superior to Docker. But we haven't had a good... If you go and look up documentation on how do I install, say, Nextcloud in a FreeBSD jail, it's an hour and a half long process to manually configure jails, and you hope you got the disk settings right and what happens when you need to upgrade the amount of space and things like that. And I'm gonna do the dick move here. All they had to do was make a nice interface for creating jails, and the community responded. There's Easy Jail. There's I think Containerd supports jails, and there are a few options. But FreeBSD never really said. FreeBSD does the GNU step thing. They say here are all the bits you need to make a nice operating system. Despite their claim that the point of FreeBSD versus Linux, or one of the points of FreeBSD versus GNU plus Linux, is that FreeBSD is a complete operating system. But it's not a complete operating system anymore, because you still have to manually configure your Wi-Fi. You still have to manually configure your sound. You still have to hope your sound is going to work.
You have to understand ZFS pools in order to get through the installer.
Right. Amiga Gamer 1200 says FreeBSD banned hugs in their code of conduct and everybody needs a hug. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that's missing that you need, that are, as you say, table stakes for a modern operating system that, Canonical did with Ubuntu, and Red Hat does very well through the Fedora project. Even GNOME doesn't do this stuff. You can't take, you can't easily take a Slackware or a more minimal operating system, Linux based or otherwise, and then just download GNOME from the GNOME website and compile it and run it and have a cohesive experience. There are integration points that we need that make this useful. I think that there's also in FreeBSD and OpenBSD is my preference, and they have one of the bonuses, actually, if this kind of effort is OpenBSD based, is OpenBSD deleted Bluetooth support from their source code base a couple of years ago, which I loved. I thought this was an excellent act on their part. They said, look, you know what? This is out of date. Nobody's really developing it. And the people that are using it are complaining constantly because it doesn't work right. So if nobody's going to work on this, we're just going to remove it. And so OpenBSD removed Bluetooth support. And then then somebody came back and said, okay, I'm going to do Bluetooth mouse support and nothing else.
Right.
And so now OpenBSD has Bluetooth mouse support and nothing else. And I thought that was just a very nicely minimal solution. But OpenBSD has a great sound daemon, has great sound support. I would say OpenBSD sound
Presumably
support
not
is
Bluetooth speaker support.
Correct. But OpenBSD sound support, I think that OpenBSD sound library is probably one of the best. But how many people, even that write, free software music players and things like that, are using OpenBSD? They're probably using Pulse Audio that knows how to speak a primitive version of the OpenBSD support. I think that there's a massive desire. Let's put on my capitalist pants for a minute and say, there is a market in need for something that doesn't shit dbus and Pulse Audio and stuff all over your computer. And the nice thing about GNU Step is it doesn't have any of that, but it has all the features you need to write modern software. So there's definitely something done here. I may be talking myself into doing it. I hope I'm not.
I think, but that's the important point. It's that, what GNU Step provides is the capability to write modern software. So what we have to do is to make sure you don't have to write the 1980s, 1990s, 2000s, 2010s software before you can do that. And the only way to do that is to actually do that writing ourselves. If you have to write your mail client before you can consider living in the environment to write your TikTok viewer, then you're not going to write the TikTok viewer.
Right. And so since we already have an excellent mail client, the only reason I don't use GNU Mail on my Mac is because of Apple. They deprecated a bunch of APIs that they still use themselves, and so I can't build it on my big whoop Mac. GNU Mail is a fantastic mail client, and so the integration work is the bit that needs to be done, and it is, as you said, a largely thankless. It's a massive amount of work and largely thankless, which kind of sucks.
Yep. But we're not here for thanks. We're here for subscription dollars.
That's right.
I think apparently.
Right. Please like and subscribe. So there's a whole bunch of opportunity to do these kinds of things, and but it does take effort, and unfortunately on a project of that size it takes coordinated effort. We can, on the as part of the things we do on the stream, we can make the calendar app nicer and more modern. We can certainly, and I think I'm very bullish on this idea that we undertake the Wi-Fi or network selection thing, because I think that is especially on FreeBSD, that is a small enough project that we could actually knock it out within the confines of a few streams. But there's still, interact with suspend resume. People expect certain things out of their laptop now that they didn't expect, 20 years ago. I'm not sure if you can hear the squeaking in the background, but you're just going to have to tolerate it. The dog is enjoying herself, and she's not begging me for treats. So I do not know why my microphone picks up so much background noise. But anyways, so we need to focus on those kinds of things. And it's an immense amount of effort, and I think it's a coordinated effort. It needs a community. It needs, it takes a village to raise a cohesive desktop experience. One of the things that people expect from their laptop now is that they can close the lid and it will sleep. And then you can open the lid, and within 10 seconds you need to be able to be typing.
Yeah. And
that is a dramatically hard problem to solve, especially when you're not targeting one bit of hardware. In the case of GNU Step, we wouldn't necessarily be targeting one operating system and things like that.
Well, even if you are and it isn't yours, it's still a big problem.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think that there are, there are a whole bunch of things like that. I think that if somebody were to do this, they would have to start with a very small, we only support, this thing is OpenBSD based or FreeBSD based, and we only support uh, this these 5 laptops. Maybe I would go crazy and say we only support the Pinebook Pro. I don't think that's entirely crazy, actually, but I think that that's probably a good thing to do. We only support the Pinebook Pro. You can buy one for $100 or $200 or whatever they cost. We only support this, and if you do that and boot off of this USB stick, you'll get a laptop that you can open and close the lid, and it does the right thing, and it connects to Wi-Fi, and it'll use your Bluetooth mouse or whatever. I think you can do it that way. I think you can. But that's not where the bug reports are going to come from. The bug reports for we only support the Pinebook Pro are going to come from people, hey, I recompiled everything and it doesn't work on my ThinkPad and fuck you guys. That's where the bug reports are going to come from. And
but
so
then there's also going to be the massive number of people who don't even get as far as reporting the bug that it doesn't work because they go, oh, well, I've got my 10-year-old ThinkPad X220 or whatever they're called.
Yep.
Like, these people don't care about me, therefore I'm not even going to try this project.
Right. And I would like to...
Yeah, to some extent, that is just like the cost of doing... I was going to say business, but that's the wrong word because it's not business, it's freedom. That is the cost of doing communism on the internet. Is
right.
You have to... you are going to just turn some people away. But what I think is that there's just an amount of table stakes for a desktop environment that people expect from their desktop environment, and they don't expect a development framework. And so, like the expectations are wrong, and it doesn't matter how clear the GNUstep.org website is about saying this is a framework for building desktop apps, and it is not a desktop environment, when people don't want a framework for building desktop apps.
Right. I mean, so it is a small matter of, it is a large matter of configuration, really. Because GNUstep already has all of the apps. It doesn't have any of the integration. And so that is a project for the people in the chat that care about it. One of the things that I really like about the GNUstep stuff, especially, is that they focused on the development stuff, so they didn't chase any of these, fads for lack of a better word. GNUstep doesn't give a shit if your system is systemd or GNU Shepherd or any of the other things, but at some point, some of the integrations are going to have to care. The suspend resume support is going to have to care about whether your system is systemd based or GNU Shepherd based or FreeBSD init or whatever. The cohesive experience has to care about those things. This is in the rant that I'm talking about. The guy talked about things like, in the comments that followed up, somebody said, look, you can complain about systemd all you want, but have you tried using any of the sort of GNU Linux distributions that don't have systemd? Because now a lot of the applications and the desktop environments depend on systemd. GNOME heavily depends on systemd. KDE does not. But KDE depends on other things that I don't necessarily have. So there's a bunch of things in there that I think, we would get a lot of benefit from narrowing the focus of who is this for and what does it run on. There's a lot of benefit to be had there.
I mean, the benefit you get from that is if you build something that works really well in one context, then people see it working really well and go, I would like to have that in my context and do that porting work. If you do something that is like, below par, but is below par on all platforms, then everybody gets to see that it's below par.
Right. And now actually, as I think about this, sort of Pinebook Pro with all the integrations, and a Pinebook Pro can be bought for $200. I'm actually thinking, as I have a Swedish corporation, if we did this work that works on a Pinebook Pro, I could just buy 100 Pinebook Pros and sell them for 500.
You probably
I wouldn't make it.
You probably couldn't buy 100 Pinebook Pros.
You can. There is a number where they just do, and it's a low number. I think it's actually 50, where they just do a custom run for you, and they'll even etch your logo into it.
And build them for you.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, look, Chinese children are building the MacBook Pro too. They're just building them a million at a time.
I thought them. Oh no, you said the MacBook Pro. That's right. That's fair enough. Because the Mac Pro is built by 3 robots in Detroit.
Right. 3 robots that don't pay taxes in Detroit.
But they have got a better union than the guy who supervises the robots.
Almost definitely. Bill Gates had a thing years ago where he wrote an article that said that suggested that robots should pay taxes. You should.
Yeah. Well, so I've actually heard that from Jeremy Corbyn, who was the leader of the opposition in the UK. Sort of socialist, probably a social democrat, I would say, but approaching Marxism, leader of the Labour Party up until the end of 2019. He said that there should be a tax on automation, so that the capitalists who own robots pay for everybody else to not have a job. And that makes sense.
Yep. That was the thing. I think it was I don't know if it was a paper or whatever, but Bill Gates wrote that if you have a robot that replaces 100 jobs, that robot should pay taxes on 80 jobs.
Right.
And so you're still better off to. You're still better off to have the robot, so that the business is still better off to have the robot, but you
Society's
are now
better off than there being 100 unemployed people.
Right, exactly. There are now only 20 unemployed people. So, and I think that there's something to be said for that. But yeah, so back on this thought, if we got maybe some Pinebook Pros need to show up here, and maybe we need to maybe we see what the support is for that.
Well, I've got it. I mean, that I've got it here because it came from your house. I have it is out on my desk partly because it gets used, and partly because I just got some new stickers from the EFF, and so I had to deploy stickerage. So I have the Pinebook, which is not the Pinebook Pro, it's the $100 laptop, and I think the new sticker is the EFF Fight Dystopia sticker over here, and there is also somewhere the SR Baker sticker.
Well, that's important. If you're in the fan club, you have to have a sticker. I do have stickers. I'm not sure if you can see my video. I do have a book of stickers.
No, we can't see the video. You've gone from off to black screen.
Oh, that is unfortunate because I turned it back on to see if it would work again. So I'm going to just turn it back off.
The experiment has been successful.
Right.
So we know the answer to that question.
So I do have, you can show the sticker. I do have stickers. If somebody finds a way to private message me their address, I can send them stickers and then they can join the Stephen Baker fan club. That is the only requirement. You just have to put a sticker on your laptop. I had a colleague.
An alternative way to join the fan club is to subscribe on Twitch to obviously retain.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I had a colleague who I gave him some Stephen Baker stickers to put on his laptop, and he tells a story which I am now going to tell because it's hilarious. That he was working.
Before you do, Amiga Gamer 1200 says Stephen needs an animated GIF of that sticker where the dog charges past at random intervals.
I should actually order avatars of the dog. So I gave some to a colleague, and he put one on his laptop, and he was working from his bed in the middle of the evening on his laptop, and his girlfriend came home, and well, things happened, to put it nicely, and she said, "Can you just put that fucking thing away? Who is that guy?" She didn't like a sticker of a bearded rando staring her in the face, I guess.
He should have put it on the ceiling of his bedroom, should he?
Right, I should get posters made. So yeah, it's I'm just looking up the Pinebook Pro. It looks like the Rock Pro has this, which I already own 2 of, has the same guts as the Pinebook Pro.
Yeah.
And I think the Pinebook Pro is actually just a Rock Pro with a battery inside of a case.
Yeah, that is definitely true. I mean, if you take apart the Pinebook, what you get is like, there is literally a Raspberry Pi shaped board, which is the Pine 64 board, stuck into like glued into a corner of the plastic case.
Oh right, I do remember they used to sell a Pinebook, like an 11.6-inch Pinebook to Pinebook Pro upgrade program, where they would just send you the new board and then give you instructions on putting the new board in. I'm a huge fan of this. It looks like the 14-inch Pinebook Pro is $215, and it has a 30-day warranty. And it is, if you order it, I think I can't see the reference to the amount.
So they only have the ANSI keyboard in stock.
Yeah, I did notice that. But there is, if you contact them separately, I think that the number is ridiculously low. I think it's like 100 if you order 100 of them. And so, what's 100 of these worth? $20,000?
Yeah.
Okay, that is a lot of money. That's as much as I paid for my house. But I think the number that you order, I have 100 stuck in my head. It might be 50. It was a ridiculously low number. Then they will, they make them custom. So that actually could be doable. I'm going to install this on my Rock Pro and see where I get.
Nice. Okay.
Amiga Gamer 1200 says they wouldn't be surprised if Raspberry Pi's next trip would be build a folding touchscreen on the back of a Pi 400. So I also would not be surprised to see that, but there are so many people out there who just say, here are the open source designs for a 3D printed case, but we can't solve this problem by saying, this is the draw the rest of the owl problem, right? It's like, here's your operating system, now build the rest of the fucking computer.
Yeah, the Magpie magazine has here are the best Raspberry Pi laptop kits, and
right,
so the kit is these are all £200 to £300. No, there's lap Pi, which is 120. But you build it, and there is a there is a suggestion that this is a good thing because you get to learn about computers, but you have to be sort of you have to be in that market. You have to be like of that mindset, and you don't want to exclude those people. But you also don't want to, in my mind, the thing that I want to get out of GNU Step is giving a home to Mac people who don't like the way that Apple does business, and so that means it has to be as accessible as a Mac.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And although if this theoretical project, which I'm definitely not starting tomorrow, targets the Pinebook Pro.
Have you bought the domain name yet?
No.
Well, then you're not going to start it tomorrow.
So if this theoretical project targeted the Pinebook Pro, then that means that you also get a desktop version of it by using the Rock Pro. And I think Rock Pro images will boot on a Raspberry Pi 4. So you kind of get the sort of tinkerer market as well. I'm making dick fingers for free. Dick fingers is when you make the quotation marks with your fingers because you're usually being a dick when you do it.
Yeah.
And so so you do sort of get a lot of extra benefit from doing those kinds of things. So that could be an interesting thing to do that I hope I don't decide to do.
Yeah, I mean, my problem with like these kinds of projects is definitely my I have very limited excitement when it comes to computing, and I kind of talked about that on my blog today. Actually, I'll just link to blog in chat. The like I find it easier to sort of cosplay being interested in computers than I do being interested in computers. And I actually have very little spare time at the moment, most of which is dedicated to the two streams that we do. It's much easier for me to say, oh, this is a really interesting thing and I would like for it to happen, than it is for me to actually then want to do it. And it is much easier for me to want to do it than it is for me to find time in which I'm willing to do it.
Yeah, this is I have similar problem. I have a lot less time than I want than I would need to do the project. And if I had more time, I'm still not sure I would do the project. I'd probably spend more time in the wood shop or driving a tractor.
So we end up kind of talking about there's not much work in these things, and then not even doing that level of work, and then kind of having this expectation that this community of other people somehow do want to do all of the projects that we've cast off.
Yeah, the thing for me is if I do the work to get it working, what I want then is for a community of people to build up around it. If I knew that there were 50 people, if I knew there were 10 people that were standing in the shadows that were going to run with this when I released it, I would find a way to run through that and do a really great job of it very quickly.
Well, there's 50 people subscribed on Twitch.
Well, there you go. If 20% of our subscribers were willing to run with this project, because I'm interested in making it happen. I'm not interested in carrying it on. And this is something that, it happened with RSpec. I created RSpec. I didn't really create it for other people. I created it for myself and my own consulting activities. Other people said they wanted it. I threw it over the wall and then I walked away.
Yeah.
And there is a massive community around RSpec. There are hundreds and hundreds of developers and contributors who don't even know who I am. And I love that. I really love that I was able to sort of, kick off a thing and throw it over the wall and it lived on. Because then I can go and focus on, I didn't know at the time that I was going to be a one-trick pony. So if I knew that I could do the RSpec thing again, throw it over the wall as a fully working thing that people appreciated, and then it would live on, then I would totally do the work. But I don't. For me, the biggest fear that I have is that I would spend all of the time and energy to do a thing that was amazing for a certain activity, for a certain definition of amazing, I guess, and that nobody ever picked up the torch. That for me is that it dies on the vine.
And like the way to do that is to build the community yourself, and for developers that's usually quite a hard thing because we're better at building the things and have a, if not objective, then at least rationalist approach where we think that the best things should win. And so if we build a thing that we think is the best thing, then we think it should win without going through all that effort of like advocating for it or supporting the construction of the community. So, it's frankly it's frankly amazing that we have built two successful streams at all, because like that is all community building, and I don't think that our programming on either could be described as stellar yet.
Absolutely. I mean, but also it's because of our definition of success too, I think. I mean, I think that most people who go and start a stream on the internet would give up if they only had 50 people. And the kinds of people that start these streams think that they're going to be, millions of subscribers and overnight successes and so on. I'm definitely going to have a larger following on the other project that I'm going to start over the next couple of months, which is a literally a video series where I'm going to fix my old tractors, do maintenance activities and repairs on my old tractors, and record them. And I'm going to speak Swedish doing the whole thing. And I bet I will get 1,000 followers on that quicker than we got 50 followers on either of these streams. But my definition of success is having created the content, not how many followers do I get. And so when you have it, it depends on what your definition of success is. And for me, in a software project, my definition of success is, does this continue to live on after I've lost interest? And I don't know why I have that. I don't know why I have that feeling about software, and I don't have that feeling about literally anything else that I do. But that is maybe a discussion for the therapy stream.
Yes, because you probably should want your children to live on after you've finished. Like
right.
That
well, I mean,
success for parenting.
Right. And I think that, by that definition, I think I've been a successful parent too, although I don't necessarily think a very good one. But it's definitely a thing that maybe it's because I'm too close to the software industry. Maybe I think of the software that I create as children. But it's certainly something that it's the motivation is, is this going to continue to be useful when I'm done being interested in it?
Yeah.
And Amiga Gamer 1200 says they find their interest and motivation is picking up again after quitting the industry. Mixing hobby and work can cause burnout. I have a lot of thoughts on this. I basically turned my childhood hobby into my career. And I've spent most of the last 24 years hating my career. And also growing to hate my hobby. But these two streams have made me find joy in the hobby again. And I actually find myself hacking on the weekends and in the evenings and things on things that I wouldn't have otherwise. So maybe it's that. So yeah. Anyways, we've talked shit now for 10 minutes longer than we usually plan to.
Yeah, so we have 21.5 minutes left. Shall
no, I canceled the thing.
Oh, okay, right.
So I have time.
Okay.
Sorry, for those of you that don't know, I discussed with Graham that I had a hard out at 5:30, and I decided to cancel that thing because it wasn't the thing I thought it was. So we've been working on SimpleAgenda.
Yeah. Where we left it last time. So I still haven't fixed the loads of duplicate class definitions problem. We built this new appointments UI that is currently buggy because we're saying what we want is for this to be a number, and the slider will change that number of these units. But this is saying 1 hour minutes, which is evidently wrong.
Right.
That's a formatting thing. But as soon as you try to use this, it breaks.
Oh, wow.
And
you've looked into this off stream. Do you know why?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I got as far as running this after you left at the end of last stream. Realised it didn't work and went, okay, what we're going to do next stream is work out what this is. So I haven't looked at this.
Okay. I have a suggestion for the first thing we can do.
Yep.
Is there's a format, a number formatter that sets that so it says like 1H00 or whatever. Yeah. And I think if we just remove the formatter and put in the raw value, that's a good place to start.
Yeah. Now, is that done in Gorm or is that done in the?
As I recall, that is done in the source code.
Okay. And that's appointment editor.m, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Oh,
and
so yeah,
there is a date format. Hour formatter, right. And so we just need to stop using the hour format. Well, I'm saying just, and I don't mean that. If we find a reference to...
Duration text uses that thing.
Right. So if we comment that out... we might get to the point where the formatting is correct.
Yeah, well, let's just try that.
That was my first thought when you described it to me, but I haven't looked at the code since.
No, I knew we'd want to get rid of that formatter anyway, but I'll be interested to see what the full effect of that is. So okay, so now the default duration is 3,600, which makes sense
Right.
because that is presumably currently in seconds.
Yes.
And was being formatted in hours, and now it is not a number.
Aha. And the slider doesn't work.
And the slider doesn't work.
Does the slider on time work? No. We've broken both sliders. I wonder if this is the Gorm bug that Greg was talking about. That when we edit the file, it fucked up the Gorm.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought what he was saying was that there were objects we couldn't access because Gorm didn't have a lookup table.
Right.
What we can do
That was just a thought, yeah.
Is so somewhere in here there will be whatever action gets called when those sliders are set, and we can find that.
There might be something in the validate because it is calling validate every time you change something, I think.
Okay, so no, update event duration isn't an action. Yeah, okay, there isn't an action for it. So
that line that you're on now is a line that we added.
Yeah.
And I don't know. How do we tell where validate is called?
Well, validate looks like it's an action method. So
right.
We can look to see if anything calls it in here, and nothing does.
It does not.
So it would be called from Gorm.
Okay.
Open Gorm. Open recent appointment. So the owner connections. What do I mean? That I want to see the actions. Oh, so I want to see the connections. Okay, right.
Validate,
so the OK
is,
button is connected to the validate action, and I definitely didn't press that when we were farting around with that.
Right.
So.
Okay. Is there an action that's connected to the slider that we're not
that's
aware of?
Okay, so
take float value from.
Oh, right. So that is just connected to that text field.
I see.
This has a minimum value of 0 and a maximum value of 0, which doesn't sound right. But then that one has that as well.
I wonder, do we want to reset to master and see if maybe when we saved in Gorm, we changed those maximum values?
Yeah, let's have a look. Okay, so we want. Oh, right, yeah.
You can just you can just check out master. Yep. Yeah, I was just gonna say stash first. Perfect.
I will look into that at some point. Okay, so that works at 0 to 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So let's open the same file in Gorm. Yeah, there we go.
Right. Okay, so somewhere along the way, when we saved our GORM file, we also changed those values and didn't mean to.
Yeah.
Maybe when we resized it or something, they got reset.
Yeah, okay. So this one, we can set all of the values to what they are there.
I'm going to write them down on
yeah,
a piece of paper.
I was going to do that.
Oh, there you go. That's even better. Do that. I do want to say separately, completely off topic, Amiga Gamer 1200, if you're listening, I would like you to ping me off stream. You can ping me on Twitter, maybe SR Baker on Twitter. I would like to talk to you, but you're quitting the industry if you're willing to do so. I'm very interested in people who quit the industry and did something else, because I hope to do that myself someday.
Cool. So this one, I think we need to think about more carefully about what happens here, because currently the duration is in seconds, but is formatted in hours, right?
Yes.
So the minimum value is 900 seconds, which is 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Yep.
The maximum value is 86,400 seconds, which is 1 day. We want. I'm childish enough to appreciate the knob thickness setting down here. We want to make this thing some reasonable number of minutes or hours or days, right?
Yes. So I think the minimum, if we go in hours, then we can say the minimum is, well, maybe it should be minutes so that we can effectively get that.
So my point is that the meaning of this slider is going to change based on the pop-up thing.
Yep.
Because and so we probably want different values for if it's in minutes, then we probably want to do from 1 to 60. And if it's in hours, then we want to do from 1 to 24. And if it's in days, we want to do from 1 to, and I'm just going to arbitrarily pick 7.
Okay.
And these specific values are up for grabs, but it means we'll need some logic that if you change the duration pop up, if you change the units, then you have to reset this value and reset the extremes of the scale, and pick a thing that makes sense within that scale.
I would say 30 days instead of 7, but that's the only, 31. But that's the only change I would make to that. But so then we could update those values when you toggle. So we now need to change our duration units, which is currently an enum, probably to an object that has the slider stuff in it.
Yeah, and I'm starting to think that there is value in like using some kind of time object that has a magnitude and a unit to represent duration of the events and to transform between these units, because currently everything is an int or a float or a time interval or whatever, and it's hard to reason about.
It is hard to reason about.
But what I'd like to propose first is we just put those values back into the GORM.
Yep.
And check whether we fixed the bug that we introduced last stream.
Definitely. I would say a minimum 0, maximum 0 is the thing that makes it not scrollable.
Yeah. Right. So what was the other name of our branch?
Duration improvements. with an underscore, which I don't know why I did that, because I usually use hyphens.
Okay.
But let's do that. I wonder if you can see appointment gorm, object gorm.
Yeah,
Diff on that and see.
It's a binary file.
Oh, okay. I thought it was XML.
Oh, I don't have XXD. So...
Oh.
All right.
Well.
And this is born shell, so I can't do that. Yeah, it's just a binary file.
Okay, forget it. We'll just put them in.
So this was always a complaint of like old Project Builder, was that these files were non-diffable and non-amenable to version control. And so Apple introduced the XIB format, which is also not actually amenable to version control for like the first few versions, just because of the way that the objects were pickled.
Right, so, they just put base64 encoded objects in it, or whatever.
Well, yeah, it was like it was non-stable was the problem. Right, so let's just we
default to minutes, so let's use the minutes number.
Yeah. Minimum of one. Let's say current of 15, because that's a reasonable.
Yep.
And we probably want number of ticks to be 60. So you only stop on.
I would say, yep.
How do you feel about knob thickness?
I could go with it being bigger, but it's probably fine where it is.
Default knob thickness, right?
Yes.
It's so childish.
We're gonna get canceled.
Okay, so that still says 3600, and that still says nan.
Oh, that's weird. Oh, that did not fix the scrolling.
No.
So we had changes to the GORM file that are not checked in. What if we check out that file? Because we did check in after we fixed. I'm dick fingering fixed it.
Yeah. Okay.
If you're yeah. Let's run it again and see if we have reintroduced the incorrect behavior.
Okay, so that still doesn't work.
Okay, so I suspect we've broken it in our first change.
Game of 1200 says, I feel like the slider got broken during the work on the changing between hours, minutes, dividing times by 60. Is it possible that one of the changes last week was set incorrectly and is setting number of slider out of bounds? Yes, that is definitely possible.
Yes.
Are there 2 commits on this branch?
There's one.
No, one. Okay, so that's the only change we've made.
So why don't we do a diff against master, and we can see what it does with the GORM file.
Yeah,
so it's appointment editor.
I'll just say the binary. I did that the wrong way around.
Oh, and it'll just say binary file, and it doesn't know how to diff it, right? If you want to install XXD, I'm going to get you the package name on FreeBSD.
Cool.
The first hit is missing the XXD utility. How do I get it? It is part of Vim.
Oh, fuck off.
It is. Oh, there's a program called HD, which is part of the base system, which will do the same thing. Yep. HD is hex dump.
Right.
And good. It will. Oh, you've got the man page. Good. Yeah. Okay. And so will it do diffs? Search for diff.
No.
Nothing.
No, but we can HD the file and dump its output, and then diff the two outputs.
Okay, the thing that I had a hard stop on got moved by a half an hour, so I now have a hard stop in 34 minutes.
Nice. So we can take that when it's done. What commit am I on? Okay, we're on the branch. Right.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be a mess. Yeah, that looks like the whole file is different.
Okay. So
what can I open that? Oh yeah, let's just.
Do we have file view on file viewer or no? Oh shit! What's it called on a Mac?
File merge.
File merge. Do we have that on GNU Step?
Yeah, I don't have it installed. It's called.
Oh, okay.
Diff tool. Merge tool, maybe.
The file merge is an interesting
Easy
story.
Yeah, go on. You tell the story. I'll try.
File merge is an interesting story because Apple, when they announced macOS 10, they said, by the way, all your old Next Step apps will run on macOS 10 unmodified, and to prove it, here is file merge app. And we didn't make any source modifications. We just recompiled it, and here it is, and it's wonderful. And I think file merge is one of the best diff tools. I think Meld, which is a GTK app written in Python, is the best, and I think file merge is the second best. And that was, as I understand it, unmodified from the original Next Step source code until they replaced it in, I think, Xcode 11.
Okay.
And so I always like. I just always like that because that was one of the things that I liked about macOS 10 was that it was just Next Step.
Right, yeah, there's very little that hasn't changed.
Right, and it'll be out of order, so it'll wind up.
In fact, yeah, I mean,
that
looks like even the text encoding has changed there.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so we might be out of luck on that one.
Yeah, that's not going to be fun to explore.
No. What if we take the original GORM file and it had that text field that was just text field. Take the original GORM file, the text field that was ours, replace it with a drop down, and change nothing else. But now I'm grasping at straws.
Oh, we're on master now. Let me check the branch out again. So,
and that might actually be a better, sort of a less, fewer changes to the UI change if we just replaced that text field with, because there was a text field there. If that text field gets replaced by the drop-down box. And then what I'm hedging on here is that we will have made a slightly smaller change instead of moving around things. we will just have replaced one thing with another, and maybe that will get Gorm to behave more reasonably. I could be completely wrong about that.
I don't understand. So there was a label here that said hours.
Yes, there was a label there that said hours.
Yeah.
And if we take that and then just, I'm not sure if we can in Gorm just change its type to a drop down, a pop up or whatever it's called. And leave it with one value in it for hours.
Not in any meaningful way.
Right. But we would at least be not moving around the sliders, which seem to be the problem.
I don't think we moved this slider.
No, you're right, we didn't actually.
And that has also broken. So I think something,
right.
I mean, it is possible that something in opening and saving this Gorm file is broken.
Yeah, that could be related to
broken something else.
Yes, that could also be related. I wonder if when we start Gorm and it complains about having two versions of the libraries.
Okay, so I mean, we should fix that anyway, and then we would know whether that is an issue. So let's go there. What I'm wondering is taking on board your suggestion is, so we should fix the dual linking problem anyway, because that's a problem that needs fixing. But I'm wondering whether what we want to do is, in the spirit of your suggestion that all we do is like make this one change to this one object, is that we should make baby steps changes to the Gorm file and see, I mean, maybe just like opening it and saving it breaks everything, and then we know that there's a problem with Gorm that we need to diagnose.
Let's do that. If we open it and save it on master, then we'll know if opening and saving is the problem. Okay. And that is not a problem we can fix on the stream.
So let's make it again. But I feel good about the proposal to fix that linker error, because like that's been a significant pain in the butt.
Yeah, I think that's been a sort of a time bomb waiting to bite us in the ass. Mm-hmm. But we'll see.
I'm just going to go and turn the light on while I'm waiting for it.
Okay.
Right, so that works as we would expect because it's not broken anymore.
We could. Well, let's do the open save, and then I have another suggestion for the simplest possible change we could make without changing the Gorm file, I think.
Okay.
Where we could implement this feature without changing the Gorm file, if that becomes a problem. So if we now
so what I'm going to do is Oh, okay. So here is a problem with Gorm, is that I now don't have.
That is weird.
Yeah.
That is weird. Okay, so we do need to make a change, and then so what if you change the text and then change it back?
Yeah.
And then we'll get save. And then we'll run git diff and see if it did change it. Okay.
And this time the info file. Oh, that is also a binary file.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we don't get any useful information.
Right. So if we make it and run, then we will know if we fucked it up.
Okay, yeah. So that
is right. Okay. So it is Gorm.
Yeah.
Okay. So my next suggestion is if we can do this all in code without touching the Gorm file. You're the expert on this one. Can we make it so that when you click that label, it rotates through the durations?
Yes.
In code only.
Yes.
So then we can leave the GORM file the way it is, and in
That's
code
not a
make it so
great user experience
it
because
is
the
not.
label looks. I
Oh,
mean,
it's not. Yeah,
I,
the eventual solution is to replace that label with a pop-up that has the list.
yeah, I'm not.
It's a shitty solution.
Yeah, and I think it would. So, like, I understand why you want to do it because it's easier
Mhm.
than the correct solution.
Yep.
We could also like do what we were trying to do to the GORM file in code. We could remove that label, replace it, add a pop-up item, reorganize everything in rearrange all the subviews. And that would be hard
Mhm.
and possible. We could fix GORM. That would be hard, but not impossible.
Mhm.
We could recreate that appointment editor GORM file from scratch.
That would also be hard.
That would be time consuming,
Yep.
but and we wouldn't have to do it in GORM because we could use Interface Builder and then just save it as a nib that gets loaded in, or we could use Renaissance, which is the XML based tool, and then we would have XML based files that we could diff.
Mhm.
We could fix this linking problem, and then we have at least moved something forwards.
Let's try that.
So that we probably want a different branch for that. I imagine it's not a linking problem. I imagine it's not actually a code problem. It's a configuration problem.
Yes.
So we probably don't want a different branch at all. What I want to do is look at what this links to. I didn't want NM. I wanted LDD. Okay, there we go.
So the one at the top of the screen there, it's linking with lib GNU step base 2127 and lib GNU step GUI 29.
Yeah.
Both from user local GNU step.
Yeah. So if we do GNU step start. Okay, so there is also system libraries libgnu step base 126
Yep.
and GUI 027. So there is there are different versions of base and GUI installed. So it is possible for SimpleAgenda to load something that so it could be loading a bundle that is itself linking against one of those things.
So this problem's caused, as I understand it, this problem's caused because the ports version of GNU step is old, and we compiled the new version to get some feature we realized we were missing from source.
Yeah, and so
is that right?
Yeah, so we've put, and the new versions have gone in here. The package rather than ports, but basically the same thing, are in here. And
right.
My hypothesis is that SimpleAgenda is loading something that is linked against the old versions, and my theory for what that something might be, it can't. I don't think it's a theme unless I've got the. Have I got the? No, I haven't got the dark theme. I think I'm using the default theme, in which case there's no theme. Is that true though? Well, let's just make sure that the default theme is loaded. It's set. Okay, yeah, so we are definitely loading. And there's so much of it that it went out of my scroll history. So what I'm going to do is do that again. Oh, I quit terminal.
Whoops.
Did I just kick you out of VNC
No,
as well?
I'm still here. No, I'm still here.
Okay, nice. Because I thought I had the VNC server running in the terminal.
Oh.
Okay, well, oh no, yeah, you're still engaged, right.
Okay.
So what I wanted to do was use that simple agenda for app agenda and redirect as output, and then have a look in there. Okay, so we don't get anything that says, right, I'm loading this, and then that tells us what it's loading two versions of.
Right. So there's loading two versions of GS array, GS mutable array. I'm assuming that's all base.
That's all GuStep base, yeah. And then at some point later we'll get... No, yeah, you're right. That's all GuStep base.
Okay, so what if we uninstall the GNU-Step base package?
Yeah, that might break something.
Oh, right. Yeah, because they're not dynamically... Right, we would have to recompile everything.
Yeah.
Okay, what if we go into our local checkout of GNU-Step base? Because we know SimpleAgenda works on old versions. We did this update for anti-RSI. So if we go into the source directory for libgnu-step base, wherever you downloaded that, and then make uninstall, and if make uninstall behaves correctly, or not correctly necessarily, but in the way we expect, and if we rebuild SimpleAgenda, we should stop getting that error, but we'll be building against the older version. And this reminds me, and I do have a laptop here with FreeBSD on it to do this project. I want to update the ports and packages.
Yeah, that did actually remove it. Okay.
There is a directory there called GNU-Step base.
Yeah. But it doesn't contain anything.
Ah, but it's empty. Okay, well, that's good.
Okay, but
now,
so we also need to remove the same version of the newer version.
Right. Yep. Because the new version of libsGUI will link with the old version or the new version of base. Right. That makes sense. And we might have a few other dependencies like that as well.
I'm gonna do.
What is back? Is that the drawing routines?
Yeah, that's drawing backend for GUI.
Right. Okay.
If we got super... No, I'm talking crap now. I was going to say we might get super lucky and find that the GORM problem is related to the version of GuStep base, but of course GORM hasn't been complaining about linking to versions of the library, so...
Well, we don't know because we're not seeing the output of it.
Yeah, that's true.
When it starts.
Yep.
But I am thinking that might actually be a thing.
Okay, that
didn't work because it depends on GUI, and we removed GUI already.
Yeah, but we only removed two versions of GUI.
Ah, right. No, you're right.
However,
okay, that is weird.
What we may have done is removed the versions that are linked in make.
Oh, right. We do have a new version of GNU Make, I think. Yep. There.
Well, it should be using both paths.
Oh, yeah, it should be. Hmm. Hmm.
So it's NS string, NS mutable dictionary. So it's not finding base.
Right.
Or
And I suspect that's because we didn't remove the newer version of Make. The GNU Make stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
I could be wrong.
Okay. No, it didn't want to delete use local bin, which is good.
That's probably
I
good.
didn't want
Yeah.
to delete use local bin. But now, what we have to do is to source the correct version. Which is in there.
Mm-hmm.
Is it in there?
You've got a space between your point.
Yeah, I should have.
Oh, right. Yeah, to source it. Right. No, you're right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah, that's not working. Well, let's try cleaning it. I think we've just hosed the installation live on the stream, which is something I...
No, it looks like it's going.
No, it looks like it's compiling. It still hasn't linked.
Oh, right. This is a retro stream taking us back to our first few streams where we ended every stream with an environment that would not compile shit.
Yeah.
Yep, there it is. All right. Is it possible that there was a GNU reset when you did... Here, let me find that one. This one, there was a GNU reset.
Okay, before you source it...
Whoops, too late, sorry.
Just did. My question was going to be, what does it do? Resets the GNU environment variables. Well, yeah, it looks like that is the thing we should have done. But it also looks like it didn't work.
Oh, I see a couple at the bottom.
It has removed all of the GNU variables. It's kept package config and info and LD library path, but it has removed all of the GNU variables, so maybe that was necessary.
Okay, and then if we source the not reset version,
so now there's GNU make files
in using the system version, not the library version. So that is potentially better. Let's try it.
Oh, the other thing is that this has a configure script, so we could just need to run configure again.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah, I remember this from last time.
Right.
So I have to explicitly tell it where those libraries are.
It's with iCal.
Yeah.
Yeah, with iCal include and with iCal library. It did not find any of the GNU stuff. It didn't find address framework or dbus framework?
I haven't installed address,
Maybe it doesn't.
addresses
Oh, okay.
framework, and don't have dbus as far as I'm aware.
Good. Nope. Hmm.
Right, and now I'm slightly worried that none of the apps that are installed are going to work.
Well, let's try one.
Okay, those still do work. That's
cool. Right, because those are linked to the system libraries because they were installed with packages. So, okay. All right. Let's see. I think maybe we call it and we fix it off stream and we bring it back. And by fix it off stream, I mean I am going to update the FreeBSD ports to the latest versions, and then you can pull my ports tree and just reinstall all of GNU Step from the ports that I build.
Amiga Gamer 1200 says if the reset is refreshed or replace the library, so you need to run LD config or equivalent to refresh. Question.
That is a very good point.
Oh.
Right.
No.
Nope.
So, yeah, I mean that's quite frustrating because we presumably now can't build any apps at all. If I cleaned and built any of those, they would stop linking.
Yep.
So we had an environment which worked, except that we got some error messages, and now we have nothing at all. It ought to be possible to get back to just having the version from the package installed, because that's where we started, right?
Right. I suspect that we've installed something else locally.
Oh yeah, any app that is in here, installed locally. So, TalkSoup, for example, G-Workspace, the apps in Gap, text edit.
Right. Okay. Well, I have taken homework to update the FreeBSD ports.
Okay.
And that will give us a place we can work from. And actually, I can also update this machine because I have access to it.
Yeah, I can leave it on. Yeah.
So we can, I'm going to do that on the weekend. I'll update the FreeBSD ports to the latest versions. I did a dry run of this already where I just went into the ports tree and twiddled the version numbers and told it to rebuild the ports, and it worked.
Yeah.
So I just need to do that in a permanent way.
Sure.
Because none of the build instructions have changed, just the version numbers have for the download. So, yeah. Okay. On that bombshell.
Okay, thanks everyone. Please like and subscribe.
Thank you for joining us. Please like and subscribe.
See you soon. Bye.
See you next week.